it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. If werewolves are assholes, vampires are definitely worse. I guess we need human blood, she said. Milo responded. Oh, what a coincidence, I know someone who has some to spare. Grabbing a metal turkey-baster syringe and a large Tupperware bowl before starting for the garage with a spring in his step. What the fuck, you psychopath? Joanna shrieked at the top of her lungs, stepping in front of Milo with her arms spread, blocking his way. What? Milo questioned with the most bullshit-faint innocent tone possible. Now, as you all can imagine, that didn't go well and the rest of us damn near had to break up a fistfight. After we got them two cooled down, about 30 minutes later, we started figuring on how we were supposed to come by a heap of fresh human blood. Long story short, it's pretty obvious a blood bank would have something to do with our solution. But we sat around for hours trying to come up with a heist game plan before that lovable moron Milo said something I still ain't sure was smart or dumb. But I gotta admit, didn't none of us think of it. Why don't we just run in, grab it, and run back out? He asked us all, sitting up from where he'd been laying down on the floor. What are you talking about? Trey asked him. I was just thinking, how many people try and steal blood from a blood bank? It's not like they keep that shit in a vault with a bunch of armed guards and stuff, right? Milo explained, which actually started making some kind of sense. So we all decided we was going to smash and grab a blood bank. Well, we found one a respectable ways away online first, and then we had to decide who was going. I'm thinking Milo, Trey said. I mean, if something goes to shit and he has to get shot, he can heal. We can't. Well, everyone seemed to agree. Then Tegan spoke up. Then someone will have to also go with him, she said. Why's that, honey? I asked her. Tegan, Milo started, but Tegan said it before he could stop her. Because Milo does not know how to do the driving, she said. Oh, thank you, Tegan. Thank you, Milo says loudly. Oh my God, you don't know how to drive? Joanna cackled mockingly at the poor boy, whose head was now hidden down in his arms. Hey, you behave, you little shit, I scolded her. It's okay, sugar, we ain't gonna judge you none here, I comforted him, secretly taking out my little notepad and putting a check under the stupid section of the smart, stupid tally I'd been keeping on him through the day. Well, anyway, I ended up volunteering to drive the little hoodlum because I had a dummy plate for my Wrangler that wasn't nobody looking for, and that don't trace back to my house, and once the next day rolled around, we were ready to get wild. We figured sooner was better than later to get our situation somewhat stabilized again. Plus, well, we figured the more time we had to think about it, the more likely we were to come to our senses and chicken out. That morning we got off to an early start, making sure we had everything set. We went ahead and put a spare set of clothes in the garage on account of, well, we figured she wouldn't be too thrilled about her shirt being ripped almost all the way down the middle, like it was from where we was trying to hold her down when she freaked out that first night. Dex said he was going to stay in there while we were gone and try and keep her company with Jasmine. We waited until later in the day when it was turning dark again to finally head out. That way it'd be night by the time we made the 45-minute drive there. Hoping there'd be less people working by then. The only conversation we had on the way there was about exactly what we were going to do when we got there. The idea being, and this one earned him a smart check in my notepad, that he would walk in with a disguise consisting of temporary blonde hair coloring, a ball cap and thick glasses, and pretend to be working on a research paper of some kind. Ask a few questions to figure out which room the blood was kept in before he'd make a run for it and bolt back to the Wrangler with as much of it as he could carry. Now I know what you're all probably thinking. But the whole thing where he single-handedly demolished the Mark Con didn't actually occur to any of us at the time. He was saying all kind of smart stuff, and I guess we just didn't put two and two stupid together. By the time we pulled into the parking lot, we had everything worked out, so I just left the car running as he hopped out and strolled up to the front door and walked in. Now, what I at the time thought was according to plan, well, he comes basting full speed back out the door about 10 minutes later holding a bunch of plastic bags in one arm. From what I could tell, it looked like a bag might have busted and got all over him because his light blue shirt was all wet and dark on one side. Well, shortly before he gets to the car, a gaggle of people in scrubs, which were also stained dark, came stampeding out behind him. As he got closer, I started to see the panic on his face and realized that boy was missing his whole right arm. That was his blood all over everything and everyone. He didn't even slow down. Now, kids, I shit you not, he jumped headfirst straight through my back passenger windshield. I screamed. Folks, I ain't gonna lie. I screamed a lot right about here. Go, 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 he yelled as he made contact with the rear seat, which made me floor the pedal right as I started to hear bodies pound against the side of the Wrangler, almost knocking it up on its side. What the shit is going on, boy? I squealed as we tore out of the parking lot and into the traffic. And where the goddamn hell is your arm? Oh, ow, he groaned, dropping the bags of blood onto the seat and working his way up into the front. Vampires. The whole place was lousy with vampires. I guess they recognized me or something. As soon as I darted into the back room where they store the blood, there were like 3 of them in there. What about your arm? I asked with loud panic still in my voice. Oh, right. I had to kind of lizard it off. Once one of them got a hold of my arm real high up and broke it. But, well, they weren't letting go, so I grabbed onto one of those corners of the brick walls and transformed a few muscles in my other arm, just enough to where I could pull it off and get away, he said, holding up his remaining hand, showing the deep purple of internal bleeding fade away as broken fingers and dislocated joints started to situate themselves back where they went. Well, I grabbed all I could with it, like this. Oh, I gagged. Oh, honey, put that down to I'm trying to drive you and you're going to make me sick. By the time we got back, his arm was already half grown back down to the elbow and had finally stopped gushing blood all over my vehicle. Thank God we didn't get pulled over, because there's just no explaining any of that. I literally slid into my driveway as we both piled out in a hurry, scooping up plastic sacks as we did. Not even taking time to shut the car doors, we took off into the back door and called out to everyone to let them know we was back. Hey y'all, we got it, we actually got it, I hollered to everyone. Dex made it to us before anyone else as he shot out of the garage and ran full speed into the living room where me and Milo was. Shortly after, everyone else started to congregate around us too, examining the stolen plasma closely, and then Milo's missing limb. What the hell happened? Jasmine cried out when she saw Milo's stump and blood all over his shirt. As he tried to explain the ruckus that surrounded it, I heard Dex notice the Wrangler's disheveled state as he said, Did I just hear something fall in the driveway? Oh my God, your car has parts hanging off of it. What happened to it? Peering out through the living room window. About the second he asked, we all turned to face, not the driveway of the car, but the opposite direction, where a commotion had started coming from. A split second later, that metal legs thing came rocketing out through a hole in the door before embedding deep into the far wall. Then the rest of the door burst into splinters. Before we even had time to gather our thoughts, a cold chill ran down my back as we all heard the voice. Oh, yes, the voice said as a hand with long, black talons wrapped itself around the corner before allowing the rest of our only until recently captured monster girl to follow behind it. We all slowly turned to face her. Her bones cracked down the hall as she stretched and twisted her arms and back, getting comfortable with her new freedom. As she slowly walked towards us with an evil smirk, raking deep canyons into the wall with her claws, she hissed, "I'm gonna twist each and every one of your goddamn heads off like fucking bottle caps." But before she could reach us, the metal thing finally wrenched itself free of the wall and made a wild sprint for us. We all screamed and covered our faces as the contraption sprinted full speed and leapt from the ground towards us with one leg extended like a spear in front of it. Thousands of shards of broken glass cascaded from behind us and into the room as the tripod flew past us into the silhouette of a person exploding through the window, hitting it in the center of the chest and sending it flying back out into the darkness with a wet, crunchy thud. "Holy fucking God, what was that?" Leslie screamed as everyone all at once ran to look out the shattered window to see none other than an actual vampire kicking and flailing, pinned deeply into the massive oak tree between the house and driveway. I kept hearing about them, but this was my first time getting a good look at one in the light. Then, all at once, we seemed to remember that the threat hadn't ended. We spun on our heels, expecting her to pounce at any second. But she didn't move. She just stood there, staring wild-eyed at something on the floor. She must have noticed the bags of blood we'd dropped, I thought to myself in the moment, before a horrible, wet, gargling and ear-splitting shriek forced my eyes to the ground. Dex was lying on the floor, with a large piece of his neck missing as a dark red pool flowed steadily from the massive hole. In the few seconds before any of us could come to our senses and drop down to try and help him, he was gone. His open, unblinking eyes peering off into nothing as he died right there in the middle of my home, as every friend he had in this world couldn't do a thing but look on in terror. "Ha, got one. I got one. We're going to get the rest of you before long." The creature nailed to my tree taunted gleefully from outside. "Oh, you didn't like him, did you? Oh shit, my bad. I can get that plug I bit out of him back to you, but he was a pretty big one, so it might take a few hours or so to pass." I jumped as someone passed by me, snatching something heavy off the mantel over the fireplace. Our freshly unleashed beast didn't say a word as she stepped over the windowsill, dragging that big metal club of hers along the ground beside her. She marched right up to the creature on the tree, and we all watched on silently. She yanked the tripod's leg free from the trunk of the oak, and before anyone knew what had happened, she took that club of hers and swung it with both hands like a baseball player right into its face so hard that it took a chunk of the tree with it. Listening to the sound of thousands of red-eyed, sticky splinters falling gingerly to the concrete, we all watched without a word as she walked back around through the back door and into the living room, all except for Leslie, who was now on the ground beside Dex, sobbing uncontrollably and covered in his blood. She dropped, sitting down next to her, picking up one of the plastic bags before emptying its contents into her mouth, then laying back on the floor into the still expanding red stain as we all circled around, not knowing what to say or do anymore beyond this point. We were really lost this time. Looking down into Dex's empty eyes, I realized the desperation and mortality of our situation for the first time. I was brought back from my thoughts as I heard Leslie begin to beg and plead for Milo and Tegan to do something to try and save him. But we all knew they couldn't do anything for that poor boy. We were all in tears by then. Hell, crying was about all any of us could think to do. Even our hard-ass vampire slayer. I got a single tear roll out of her eye before she suddenly got to her feet and walked upstairs to her room without a word. None of us saw her again for several days after that. If she'd sneak out to the bathroom or kitchen, she was there and back before any of us could catch her at it. Seeing as we really couldn't report his death because that would expose who and where we all were, and that we were Dex's only family, we held a funeral and cremated him out back, up in the woods. But only just far enough to where we knew she could still see from her bedroom window. Luckily, I live far enough out that people almost never pass by, and even if they did, the house is big enough to hide what was actually going on, and seemed like just an average bonfire. We understood she didn't want to come out, but we also know she wouldn't ever want to miss Dex's final send-off. I did manage to catch a glimpse of her every now and then in the corner of the window while we were out there. We spent most of the time after that with me and Milo tearing up the old carpet and laying a new one, and Trey putting new glass in the window. We piled the vampire carcass in the garage with Mark for the time being. Partly because we might as well, because we already had a hostage in there, and partly to soften him up over a few days of looking at and smelling the rotting corpse of one of his vampire buddies. But after about a day, its body had dissolved into a pool of some weird, yellow, shimmering liquid. On the fourth day, Milo had finally had enough of all of us carefully knocking on Princess's door, asking if she needed anything or wanted to talk, and just being ignored. "No, I've had it. Everyone's had it," he barked as he climbed the stairs. "She ain't gonna be the only one dealing with that shit by herself." And then he kicked my door to her room in. I peeked my head around the corner just enough to see in. She was sitting on her bed in the dark, surrounded by empty plastic blood bags and food wrappers. Her laptop was on and some video was playing. She still had on the same raggedy torn shirt she'd been locked up with too. "Hey champ, how you holding up?" Milo asked her. "Huh?" I said, just noticing that it looked like my door was kicked off the hinges, finally lucid enough again for my memory to function properly and not seem like a dream sequence of some events. "How am I... What? Oh yeah, I'm just... YouTube," I mumbled, pointing to the screen and noticing Gage-Jake's eyes poking out from around the corner. "Hey, did you know this guy actually narrated that story about when we first met? We're like famous now." "Oh boy, you are ripe. Jesus, fuck," Milo coughed. "That's the same damn t-shirt, goddammit, woman. You still have dry blood all over your... you know what. Come on, let's get your rotten ass into the bathroom so you can shower." Then he wrapped his arms around me and practically dragged me into the bathroom. I was lucid, just not compliant. He sat me down on the edge of the counter, left, and came right back with a change of clothes. "Okay, here you go. Fresh threads. Get you a shower, calm down, rejoin society," he said, tossing the clothes on the counter next to me and closing the door behind him as he left. He came back about 40 minutes later and reopened the door to find me sitting on the closed lid of the toilet, still dry and crusty as ever. "Oh, fuck, really?" he scolded. Then he stuck his head out into the hall and yelled, "Hey, Jasmine, Teague, Leslie, Gage-Jake. Oh, the mean bitch. Anyone come here and help her take a shower. I know you fuckers can hear me, god damn it." Cursing to himself again, he pulled his head back into the bathroom and turned to face me once more, as best he could with me staring into the void like I was. He hesitated for a second, and then closed the door. "Fuck it, damn, I already had my dick on your leg, and you've been half naked for most of the week anyway, but, well, this stays between us, understand? Look, I don't need everyone thinking I'm some kind of creep, but goddamn, you are gross," he said with a finger in my face. I nodded slowly, and he turned the faucet on and started letting the tub fill with water. "Okay, arms up," he said, pulling my nasty shredded t-shirt off. At least there's no bra. Those things are confusing as hell," he joked, which almost made me laugh. "Okay, it's about to get weird. Legs straight," he said, taking off my equally dirty bottoms. He actually turned his head and looked away the whole time. Well, the guy never stopped surprising me, and he actually kept that up for a surprisingly long time, but eventually he got frustrated. Oh, look, this ain't working for shit. If I'm going to get all this funk and grime off you, I need to see. Look, we're just going to both have to pretend to forget I saw anything, okay? He said, and I nodded once more. Yeah, it was awkward, but it didn't reach peak awkward until the door flew open. We think we hear someone call for us, but we are not sure, Tegan said, accompanied by Jasmine as the bathroom door opened at the exact moment Milo finally worked up the courage to scrub my inner thighs. Yeah, admittedly, as bad as it looked, Milo doubled down as only he could have. Oh, I see, now you two want to show up. The hell were you when I was begging for someone else to come and do this? What the actual fuck? He yelled. No, I'm too far in now. You missed your chance to help. Now, get out! He yelled again, but this time grabbed one of the soaking sponges and heaving it at them. Well, they jumped back and slammed the door behind them. Everything was silent for a second before I heard a few small giggles from both of them. I'm glad you finally came out, Jasmine said softly through the door. We were worried about you, especially me. How's Leslie? I managed to ask, still gazing mindlessly into the rippling bathwater. Oh, well, she's had a pretty rough few days, Jasmine answered, but we've been taking care of her and helping her through it. As she turned to leave, she informed me and Milo that they'd all be waiting in the kitchen. After he dried me off and helped me get dressed, we went downstairs. He didn't have to drag me, but I don't think I would have found my way down there without him nudging me that direction. We walked into the kitchen where everyone was gathered at the table waiting for us. Or almost everyone. The brief second it took me to mistakenly look for Dex in the crowd was all it took. I managed to fit 4 days' worth of crying into a solid hour of bawling my eyes out. After we all had a good cry and a long conversation, the question finally got asked. So, what do we do now? I stood up and placed both my hands on the table, speaking as matter-of-factly as possible. Kill them. Kill them all. Oh, this little piggy went to market, I yelled, slamming open the garage door, scaring the absolute piss out of Mark, making him squeal like a 5-year-old at a Chuck E. Cheese. Holy fuck, the abandoned hospital! He frantically cried. They sell all their shit out on the streets, but they cook it up and keep it there in the old hospital. I think most of them sleep there during the day too. See how easy that was? I said, turning to walk back to the group and relay the information. Looks like they set up shop at the rundown hospital, I said. Well, fuck, Milo swore under his breath. This is going to be harder than I thought then. There's all kind of places they can escape once me and Tegan are in there with them. He pulled out his phone and started swiping around from it. Okay, cool. They actually have a lot of pictures and blueprints for this place online, so we have to find a way to get them as grouped together as possible in a place with only one exit. As Milo was talking, I noticed Gay Jake pull out some kind of notepad, make a check or something, and put it back in. There might be an explanation for it in the section I let him write, but I told myself I wouldn't go back and read it to keep from being tempted to alter anything that he'd written. How the hell we do that then? Shay asked. We're going to need a way to lure them down there somehow, Milo answered. It's something they want bad enough to all pile in after it at once. What about me? I asked. About the time I'd said anything, my cell phone started to ring. I looked at the screen that read, Stephen. Oh shit, oh fuck, oh god, oh shit, Stephen, oh, we forgot about Stephen, I screamed, looking up at Jasmine as I felt myself start to hyperventilate. I tapped the accept button on the phone and raised it, shaking my hand up to my ear, not fully knowing whose voice to expect. Hello? I said. Hey, you know rent's due in like 4 days, right? Stephen's agitated voice spoke through the speaker. What? Oh, right, yeah, rent, sorry. I'll mail you some cash or something. My bad, I answered. Oh, hey, you okay? What are you talking about? Of course I am. You're in some kind of trouble. Some really energetic lady came by asking about you a few weeks ago with a group of really shady-looking people with her, he said. I swear to God she acted like she was on speed or something. What'd you tell her? I asked, louder than I'd intended. Well, I figured you were probably at that Jake guy's place, he said, causing my stomach to lurch. Oh, but she was a bitch, so I said I didn't know. That we don't communicate that much about where you're going or what we're doing to each other. Well, I saw her and those sketchy guys snooping around here a few times after that, though. Oh, thank God, Stephen. I owe you one. I'll send you half my rent as soon as I can. Look, you're literally a lifesaver. And this might not make any sense, but I'm so fucking sorry I left you there. After running out and putting an envelope with the rent and a fake return address into the mailbox, I ran back into the house and got back to business. So, yeah. I'll do it. I'll be the bait. What do I have to do? Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.